And I think we've moved to the point beyond shotgun approach, so. Anything else on this agenda item? Broadband. Yeah, I would, if you can set up a Zoom call or a conference call or anything with the folks in Farmersville, I would be interested in being part of that conversation too. Just, I don't know what questions to ask. I'm too ignorant, but I'd like to at least hear what's going on. Okay. Anybody else? All right. Item 3, discuss and consider budgeting projects and programs for 2021-2022 fiscal year. Leslie, do you have a couple of things on this?
I do. So when we talk about right now for the city, we're working on our fiscal year 2021-2022 budget process. And so wanted to talk to you all and see if we can't maybe get some goals and projects identified for the upcoming fiscal year so that we can start preparing some cost estimates and get those identified and into the budget for the upcoming fiscal year. Right now, I think we're expected and on track for the EDC to finish the current fiscal year with about probably $120,000 or so in the fund balance. I'll have to go back and check. That's just off the top of my head, so I may be off a little bit on that. So I think we're getting to the point that y'all are starting to build some fund balance. It's not anything to jump up and down about just yet, but I think we're getting to the point that we need to identify some goals and projects that y'all would like to see done.
I agree. Well, since you've laid that out there, and since I mentioned it before in the previous topic, I'm really, if y'all have followed my involvement with the city council for years, you know that I'm very big into planning, and I think it's time that the EDC create a formal plan, and we need a vision, a mission. We need all of the things that go with that, and I think we need a comprehensive plan of where we're going to go with this. So we need to have a clear vision and a direction and all the steps that would be involved in moving this in the right direction. It's taken us a while to build up a fund balance to where we can actually pay for these things. We had to crawl and waddle on the floor for a while and all of that, but now that we've got a little money in the bank, we've financed our first project, we kind of have started to do some things. I think it's now time to start thinking about bringing in outside help as a consultant and hire that consultant to be able to put together those kind of plans for us. I don't know if any of you have ever been involved in those kinds of things. I know probably you have, Ernie. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you have too, Tom, right?
Yes.
So, in the past, what we've done is we've had a couple of day workshop. Whoever the consultant is comes in and interviews people, talks to them, and then we put together a strategic plan to go with what we're trying to do. And then you follow your strategic plan and your goals that come out of that, and that tells you where you need to go. And I think this goes with the city's vision plan that's already in place, and I know the Chamber of Commerce is also looking at a vision plan as well. I don't know if they'll, if I can talk them into actually funding a formal one or not, because when they see a price tag for putting something like that together, it may cause sticker shock. But it is expensive. I would say it's probably going to run $20,000 or $30,000. But I think it's irresponsible to continue to try to meet and not have a game plan of where you're going, what you're doing, and how you're going to get there. But that's just me. I'll entertain any discussions, any feedback, or any other thoughts on this. Leslie, do you think I've lost my mind?
No, I was just going to add too, I think we've, at least from my standpoint, I know how well the city's strategic plan has served as direction and guidance for the staff and some things that we've been able to move forward and push forward that are in that plan. Sure makes life a whole lot easier on staff, knowing exactly what direction you want to go and things that we can do to help support the mission and goals.
I think one of the things that kind of goes along with that and kind of the broadband discussion is commissioning something of a feasibility study for at least our location. Once we identify, kind of the data center and the fiber optic, because that gets people actively pursuing Lighthouse. So
Theoretically, when you come up with your strategic plan, that might be one part, is funding a feasibility study. So what you try to do when you put these plans together is you're trying to take like a 30,000 foot view, and you're trying to funnel all that way all down into the various side priorities as they come up in the conversation and in your meetings and in your brainstorming sessions and all of that. So it's true that you need that probably, but you need your overall big. Did that make sense? I mean, yeah. And it's easy. It's really easy for all of us. This is the thing I like about putting these plans together. It's easy for all of us to get fixated on project-driven or idea-driven, and we move down that particular avenue. It's a lot harder to keep all of the balls in the air and realize that what you're trying to do is all funneling toward this one thing. And I think that's why I always call it, when you're meeting without a plan, you're kind of a shotgun, and you're just waiting for it to spread out and see what you hit. Whereas if you do this, then we're trying to actually narrow the shots that you fire, and maybe do better things with what assets you do have.
The only question I had was, how does this fit in with the city's strategic plan? In other words, should we be starting off kind of independently, or should we be largely taking their plan and saying, here's where we fit into that, and then start from that? I'm just thinking of our role with the city's plan.
I think that's a really good question. Synergy-wise, if you're looking at that, the ideal thing would be to have your chamber, your city, and your EDC all working for a common purpose. But there are a number of communities out there that everybody does their own thing.
I've seen both, yeah.
I've seen both as well. I think it works better if everybody's on the same page.
Yeah.
So
For success, I think it's critical
Yeah.
on the same page.
Yeah.
Mayor, when y'all did the city strategic plan, didn't you have stakeholders from the chamber and like other organizations as a part of that conversation? So I think that's how you make sure that those fit together.
I think you have to have a group of, depending on how long you want your meetings to go, and who's running it and putting it all together for you. But 12 to 15 is probably the ideal number, but it's not unheard of to have 20 on that committee as far as who you want to serve and who you want to be a part of it. So, you don't want to try to just do it yourselves,
Right.
Because you're not going to get the broad-based feedback that you need to create all the ideas and bring in everything that it's really interesting. Every one of these I've done, almost everybody in the room agrees at the end of the project when it all comes back out that, well, yeah, this is exactly what I had in mind, But part of that is because you sat in the meetings for a couple of days and you've bought into the process, and so that's.
Yeah, that buy-in and commitment from the other parts of the community is pretty critical
Really
to make it successful. Otherwise, it just becomes, oh, that's a nice report, let's throw that on the shelf. And
Yeah, which is essentially what happened with the Vision 2020 plan. You know, they spent a lot of money, but they didn't really get any buy-in with it and threw it on the shelf and let it grow some dust. And so that's the reason the city's having to do a new comprehensive plan, so. I mean, that's what you wanna prevent, and the way you prevent that is the buy-in. So, but,
So a couple of other opportunities or ways that, you know, we may continue that kind of synergy with the Chamber of Commerce and the EDC and the city. The city council approved 2 meetings ago to purchase the building located at 109 East Main, which is the karate studio. But as a part of that, one of the things we're gonna do is a feasibility study of or a facilities master plan of our city facilities to make sure and look at our space needs assessment, a condition assessment, and then our future growth to determine what the highest and best use for that facility and all of our facilities may be. So we're gonna do that, and it's gonna have some stakeholder input opportunity from the organizations that currently use those buildings, but also the Chamber of Commerce, the EDC, and some of those kind of things. So we're excited about that as we move in, so. Just kind of an FYI on that.
Yeah,
So,
great.
One other thing I did think about that you all may want to consider, I reached out to some economic development website providers just to kind of get an idea of what one would cost. I could always throw, you know, another page up on our city website, but it's not gonna tell the same story that maybe a dedicated EDC website would. The one that I liked the best was ED Suite out of Longview. They do some ED websites they do Bryan, but they also do Joshua and some smaller growing cities. And what I liked about them is they really look at it from a holistic marketing approach as opposed to just a website approach. So it would include like some professional photography and content writing specifically developed for economic development. But it's pretty pricey. I think that quote was right at about $35,000. So, yeah. But it would be done the right way. And I talked to some others that were cheaper, but they didn't include the same level of expertise and professionalism that firm did. But that's just something to think about. But again, that could be something that's identified in your strategic plan to look at marketing holistically, not just from a web design perspective. But just an FYI, we're looking at some of this kind of
yeah,
things.
and again, and you know, when you're talking about ideas to be discussed for the future, you know, if you're talking about locating a building, having dedicated phone lines, having dedicated web pages, and then next thing you know, you start talking about a part-time person to do that as well. And you know, and maybe at some point you partner with, you know, the chamber and you create a position that's dedicated to that's working 20 hours a week or something. And you know, I don't know, but again, I think those are things that you would find out in your plan.
Yeah, that's when we're executing
Right.
our plan,
Right.
and we need our whole marketing strategy, and
Right.
that's a big piece of it.
Yeah.
And,
Again, those are, I'm drilling down into that a little bit, but yeah. So, I think those are all really good thoughts. You know, because I think the current vision plan calls for this building to be a bigger parking lot.
And that may be what the facilities master plan comes back and says. We'll
Maybe.
see.
Be interesting to see, so.
But the council really wanted us to kind of take an open mind going into that process and really have somebody from the outside just kind of take a look in and say, here's our vision, here's what's in our vision plan, here's what we have, and see what expertise we can get and possibly some federal funding to pay for it, so.
Well, it'd be great if we could find in that some room for a business park or
Yeah.
something like that. If you could incorporate that into the city's plan. I mean, if there's gonna be a grant, then
Yeah, I mean, now's the time to be looking, money seems to be raining from the heavens here.
It's like manna from heaven, right?
It's almost like they print it.
Yeah, wait.
Don't know when it'll be worth it a few years, but,
But I think the city of Athens has a facility that's got their Chamber of Commerce and their EDC and business development. It's kind of all co-located, so that was talked about just preliminarily for that karate studio.
I was over there yesterday, and it's a nice facility. They do their city council meetings in there, but then they also have, you walk into the front door and you can turn right to go to the EDC, left to go in the chamber. And it is just kind of a wholesale, everything goes in there, and it's nice, and they've got nice offices. It's been very well received over there.
Yeah, one of the struggles we face here is, we're meeting with new businesses in that conference room just right across the hall, and it's probably not the best first impression that we would like to make on some of those things.
Yeah.
So.
I do business in a lot of towns, and in East Texas, and I would say we got some catching up to do if we wanna compete, especially around Tyler, where the growth is gonna be. We're primed. We just need that first impression means a lot to folks.
It really does.
If you've got the opportunity right now to do something like this, you can't waste that opportunity.
totally agree to that statement.
As a matter of fact, I'm almost to the point where if there was a nice office, but I don't know of any nice offices in town to even rent, there's no rental offices here.
And
Yeah, well, maybe it could be a professional building complex, and then you get a piece of it is this.
Yeah.
So all those opinions and everything will be taken into consideration when we start planning for that facility. So, like I said, the council had some ideas, but I think they felt it was very important to get some public input and make sure we had a good representative stakeholder input before they really kind of finalized what they want that building to be.
I think that's a very wise decision. If looking at your overall needs, it's a lot easier and palatable for citizens to swallow if you've got buy-in from other sources. The same way with, what I'm talking about with doing all this.
Right.
I think you get the community behind you, it's a lot easier to accomplish things.
Okay, so we will definitely start working and maybe put together a scope for strategic plan development to start sometime in the next fiscal year. So we'll start pulling some samples and putting that together for you.
I mean, do y'all think that's direction?
Yes.
I'm totally
No, I
convinced
think
of it,
having a
but
plan to go forward and like you said, there's a mission for this group, and the things that we get involved in need to follow that mission. And if it falls outside of it, then you gotta have a real hard talk about it. But that's something that like you said, it's you can't use a shotgun approach. You need to be more like a rifle, very targeted, very very on point. And if you don't have a plan, it'll never be like that. So I'm with you 100%.
Yeah. me too.
well, and your SWOT analysis, for the EDC,
Yeah.
is gonna be probably very similar to that at the cities, but there's gonna be some differences. When you look at that, and there may be some things come up that we haven't thought of. That, so you just have to go into it with an open mind.
We can play a really key role, I think, between the city and the chamber. I think the EDC can often be, that's certainly how it works in Tyler. And, it's very much the glue that pulls those together.
I would also say that it's more important to do that now, because what has happened over the last year has changed the way people look at a lot of things. And so getting a plan together now is really, really important, because my business has changed dramatically.
Yes.
There's a lot more people that are able to work from home, do this, and this. that kind of changes how you look at attracting people to the community as well. And so there's opportunities abound on, having, maybe even having a small office space in a building like that, that people can utilize for their home business.
Yeah, incubation spot.
Incubators. It's just, there's a lot of things that you got to look at that people working from home for 12 months, it's changed the way the world works right now, so.
So to be able to make that federal funding available for that type of facility, it has to have a very strong COVID-19 component. And so I'm in the process of writing that part of the scope into the study, to make sure that we have strong recommendations that are based on COVID-19 changes
Yeah.
and protocols. So that will be a big part of the final report, but just know that that's why, because that's the key to the funding.
So then the question is, okay, a fiscal year starts October 1. We don't have to wait till October 1. We've got money in the account. If you wanted to move that up.
We're just starting out. We gotta have a plan,
Yeah.
otherwise we're kinda just grasping in the air. So yeah, I think that's job one.
Because if we don't go out with an RFQ until October, then you're looking at January
That's what
before
I'm
you can
saying.
even hold a meeting. So
Can't wait.
let's do it now. That'll be my goal to have on your next agenda is an RFQ for a strategic plan. TEDC they have a strategic economic development plan template and all the components that have to go in it. So I don't think the scope will be that difficult to write for an RFQ. We'll send it out for 30 days, see what we get back, and then y'all can make a decision. So, if you wanna go with it.
And you can utilize folks like Mullins.
You absolutely can. We've used KSA engineers in the past. They're the ones that have, put a lot of work into it for us. But, absolutely, we can, somebody like Tom Mullins, this is gonna be right in his wheelhouse.
Boy, that's an interesting idea, cause he knows so much already in the area, and he's trying to get started out. He might give us a pretty good deal to help write the plan, and that would have such credibility in the area, cause they're the whole Tom Holland's busted, So, well, I think that's a great idea.
He's the grand poobah of economic
Oh,
development.
man, I tell you, yeah. And he's that because he's darn good at it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, go forth.
Okay.
An RFQ.
Fourth and RFQ, will do.
Anything else under projects or programs? Consider future agenda items. Obviously, we get the RFQ. We need to, obviously, we need to talk about the Chamber After Hours event, the next meeting, so that we can finalize all the details of that. And keep all these agenda items on the subject going forward. Anything else new?
I heard all these rumors that we're getting a Whataburger and a Starbucks over here. Is there any truth to that?
If you read the mayor's letter that he sent out yesterday to
Oh, I didn't.
everybody,
No, I did not see that.
the mayor asked us to not discuss any ongoing opportunities in public
Oh, okay.
until such time as it's been formally announced, in the fear that we could potentially run off
Whoever was looking.
whoever was actually kicking the tires.
Well, that makes good sense. I was just curious. I've had several people listen. I said, I know nothing. No, no.
That's our story, and we're sticking to it right now.
That's right. That's it, we're in ostrich mode. Stick your head in the sand and there you go.
I will read the grins as there's something to it, but I'm not ready to say anything.
Okay.
Can you say what's going in at Old Skating Rink?
I cannot.
Flooring
It's a
store is
flooring
my
store.
understanding.
There's
They're-
nothing,
They're keeping it well hidden under the,
Flooring
yeah.
store.
it's just a flooring store, no,
We haven't been asked to keep that under
Yeah.
wraps, so.
Okay, see, we've considered future agenda items, receive reports from staff. You got an income statement back there on the back that is really confusing.
So we've upgraded our financial software, so it's changed, the way it looks a little bit. What you need to know is that your revenue is right on track. We've budgeted $66,000, just over $66,000 in revenues we received for the year. To date, we've received $52,000 of that. So we expect to probably finish the year a little bit ahead of budgeted projections. And that's something we've seen all across our sales tax revenue, just because of people spending money closer to home and internet sales tax collections. So those two things have been great at that, so. And expenses year to date are $1,000, not that y'all haven't done anything, and we've got $25,000 committed to net RMA for the trail development. We talked to you about a potential project at the corner of Ackertap and 110, but felt like that request that developer made was better suited to come out of the utility fund. So we've had some requests, they just haven't gone through the EDC fund, specifically this year.
Okay. Anything else? Do we have anything to talk about in executive session? Okay. Then, I guess we're on to item K, which is take any action from the executive session, which there was none, which moves us to item I. And the time is now 1:01. We are adjourned.
Great.